Here we are, everyone. And this is Tabitha Poppins, who I had known in a different incarnation and I wish we had before and after pictures. It's kind of like before and after methamphetamine pictures the police put out. And I'm sorry I only could find a still of this. I did look online. I thought maybe it was taken down or maybe it's just in the middle of other things. But I recall seeing this and really it was the first time I'd seen Ben in action, shall we say. Save a kind of intermediary stint in Astoria, Oregon. But it was just this bizarre, wild footage, and if I can find it, I'm shocked I didn't do a YouTube on it when it happened. Tabitha, Poppins, Ben lit a picnic table on fire, put fire under the picnic table, and just danced on it and continued to dance upon it as it was literally on fire. I mean, it was just... And I'm looking at this kind of shell of Ben, and here's a close-up. You can just barely see who you were, and you were extraordinary and used. You know, ultimately, yeah, he probably did hurt other people, but ultimately this hurt himself the most. So let's do a little bit of pathology about him. I thought, or her, Tabitha Poppins, and who I knew before that, and how did that come to be? How did that come to be? And here's another picture of Ben, and we met in the early 2000s, probably, well, maybe more like 2009 or something, maybe not so early. And he had come to Olympia because of the Rachel Corrie anniversary. It was somehow kind of a known thing, and it was a bit of a mecca. So let's bring up Rachel. And Rachel was from Olympia, and she went to Evergreen, and they talked her into, here she is, she's unrecognizable to me. I knew her. She worked with Tom Nogler. They worked together at Behavioral Health Resources, and he said they probably saw each other more than they saw anyone else. And she was very fun. I'm sure the clients must have adored her. She would tell them, today we're going to go to Mexico and, we're going to take off. And just, she would just be really fun and just really loved the BHR was, for people getting back on their feet, kind of quasi-semi-governmental, bizarro agency. And here is maybe the last known picture of Rachel taken, and she is in the red on the ground. She got run over twice by a bulldozer in Palestine. So, I guess I bitch about what happened to me there, and maybe just being drugged and messed with, being sexually attacked is just a piece of cake compared to what they do to other students there. Doc always said the students there are the lowest on the totem pole. She got run over not once but twice. It ran over her going forward and then backward, and said he didn't see her, and there's been different debates about that. I don't know. I wasn't there. Some people have said that she fell, and when she fell, she wasn't seen anymore. I have no idea. I've talked to other people who said that these kids were told, that we get told they're protecting wells, and really they're protecting terrorist tunnels. And I think you might remember that, oh God, it was sometime after Rachel was killed that that they found like a ton of tunnels around. So there she is, and she's in her death throes. She's in her death throes. The only good thing I can say is there were two people who loved her that were next to her and holding her when it happened. Some people die alone in alleyways, run over by garbage trucks, but my God. Joy was one of those people, a guy named Joy, and, again, really nice kid. And, I'd heard that was part of the MK Ultra project of why was Evergreen built as a college. And it's interesting that, what was her name, Simona Sharoni, just, sent these kids, to their death and their trauma and their destruction, really guilt tripping over at Evergreen. I never saw her go. She was, and there's another guy named Glenn Anderson, who's a beloved fixture here among people, but not among me, because I feel that he pushed her and pushed her and pushed her. She had colon problems, really deep colon problems, and pushed a young, 23-year-old girl at a time, and wanted to make her a martyr. They were so thrilled. That was what really shocked me coming back. But yeah, Glenn Anderson, he hangs out in the coffee houses here and recruits these little young chickies, who are raised to be good, who are raised to be martyrs. And, so there was a Mecca where people were coming, and Rachel Corrie was kind of all the rage until Black Lives Matter came in, and they tore down her pictures and said, who needs this dumb white girl? So, the whole thing was weird. And I just knew her as a person. In fact, the last time I saw her, well, we had become friends because she was doing doves for the procession of the species. And we happened to live right around the corner from where the procession of the species, all their giant fun floats and animals and stuff were being made. And, she was up there all the time, but she would kind of go a little bit crazy being up there all the time. And she would come over, and she got to know my cat, and she would pick kale in the yard. And, so we became friends in this really sweet way. Then we didn't talk about politics or any of that, and I was more just concerned about her colon and her diet. I think she was just living off of coffee. And then I ran into her actually at a coffee house that Tom dragged me into one day, and I saw her, and I hadn't seen her in months, and she and I had become close enough that she would come by a couple of times a week, and she really loved Squirrel Kitty. And I remember when she saw me, she flinched, and she said, oh, you're probably mad at me, And I said, Rachel, I could never be mad at you. Here she is as a child. Here she is post-indoctrination. But she looked very serious. She seemed like, people talk about it when you see people that are cult members. She looked very glazed over. She was with her sister, and she said, I didn't mean to be rude, but I'm going to Palestine. And I just about died when she said, I'm going to Palestine. I had just known her as an Olympia person and that she was having serious health issues. And I said, don't go there. And then I said to her sister, if you love your sister, you won't let her go because she'll die there. And her sister looked at me and she looked like she was going to start crying. And she said, I can't stop her. I've already tried. So, yeah, see, and they make them do all this weird, they kind of do the dirty work of whatever these bizarro groups are. So anyway, it's interesting to see this cult of martyrdom. And this Ben was the son of a minister. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but Ben was the son of a minister from like Georgia. And my father was a minister too, but our dads were both like totally opposite ministers. So we really laughed about that. His dad was like really fundamentalist and the world is evil, but his dad would like smoke pot all the time, and then he'd like confess in church and Ben would be embarrassed. And my dad was more of the new age, everything's just, fun and, life is great and, we should just all live in Honolulu or something. Everyone has like a famous person in their life, right? Or something. Ben knew Holly Madison. They went to high school together. I think it was in Oregon. I don't know if his parents got divorced or kind of what happened. He had a broad sort of, stroke of where he hung out. He knew Oklahoma really well and was friends with these sort of oil millionaire tycoon kids, and that had nothing to do with Holly Madison though. She was from like Alaska, I think, and was in this little town in Oregon, and they both sort of buddied up. I think they were both probably reaching for different things, so they kind of were close for a while. And he said she was really funny, but she couldn't stand sort of being in this little town. She really wanted to really go for it. I kind of laugh about it because I don't really have like a Holly Madison connection per se. But during high school, I lived in Chicago and worked at a drugstore that was not far from the Playboy Mansion. And the year of that was 1978, 79. And it was a really cool drugstore. It wasn't like CVS or something, it was carpeted, and it was run by this really great Jewish guy from New York who was, the place was kind of almost like a family thing, kind of like all about him being just very funny and personable. And, the place was carpeted and across the street from a disco called Coconuts, and just kind of a very 70s sort of place. And it was along the water, and so it wasn't really that far. It was just kind of north of that little loop area, kind of where Lakeshore Drive begins, or as we called it back then, LSD Drive. And there were a lot of that kind of people were living like in those apartments. We're kind of going up, this is called like the Gold Coast or something. And it was just really an interesting time. I guess all times are interesting, but I was going to try to find it for you to sort of put it into perspective, because I think basically looking back on it, we were probably supplying Quaaludes to them or something. There was a delivery guy that was always, running around. I just typed in the Edgewater to see if it would pop up, and no, that is not it. It is a very tall, oh, Edgewater's a neighborhood, okay. So it would be, it was like a very, very tall black building. I'm sure it's still there. I'm sure it hasn't like fallen down or something. It might be that one right there. That looks rather it. So there we go. Yeah. There it is. And, but, nobody that I knew wanted to be part of that. I remember there was a restaurant inside of that building called Jonathan Livingston Seafood, and it was really kind of a clever joint. But, I remember this guy coming up and saying, oh, you should lose, I don't know, do this, do that. And I was like, no way, I don't want to be part of that. It just seemed creepy. And it seemed odd to me that she wanted to be part of it, but she was from a small town. She might not have had all of the, this is what I've been wanting to do something on, and have been doing a lot of research lately about how does this affect us now, right? How do we bring up things now? But it's the Venona Files, right? The Venona Files. And, they were instrumental in that very tragic Rosenberg case that was just so sad. And we've got, different players that are going to come in to being here, like Roy Cohn. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. And oh, wait, no, I'm so sorry. What I was trying to kind of get at was just this poor guy. He was sort of, part performance artist, part, this kind of bizarre kind of inverse image of Holly Madison and Rachel Corrie combined. He became this kind of hybrid. Ben, you were such a good artist. I remember you painted one of the school buses that went to Cuba, and we'll talk about that too later. Wow. What happened?